Yeah, I'm Lyman Sheats. I am a pinball player and programmer. I'm employed at Stern and worked on a bunch of games for my career. Worked on some games at Data East, Tommy, Guns N' Roses, some games at Williams, Tactical Mars, probably people are familiar with, Medieval Madness, Monster Bash, and some games at Stern, Sopranos, Spider-Man, Batman, whole bunch of games up to AC/DC. So.
And right now we're at the Southern Pinball Festival. How has Southern Pinball Festival and the tournament been for you so far?
Pretty good so far. It's every tournament's different, and so far it's been pretty fun. Some older games, which I don't know, a couple games I hadn't seen before, which I'm more, into newer stuff. So, but I don't know. That's what you get at tournaments these days. So you just have to kind of go with it.
Do you have any tips for aspiring tournament players, or just gist of what is a tournament? How do you what should you look forward to in your first tournament?
Well, my first tournament, I guess I had some skills, but I was not. I guess there are two things. Be a good player, and if you aren't a good player, you want to learn, then hang out with good players, and they'll be perfectly willing to help you. And then go to tournaments, and it's one thing to just sort of be practicing playing or whatever, just without the additional pressure of having to beat somebody or go home. So part of it is not just your skills that you have, but just a lot of it's mental, just trying to stay relaxed and trying to always think of the correct thing to do strategy-wise. So there's a lot of thinking that's involved with playing also.
So do you have any pre-game or pre-tournament routines that you do, or is it just play a lot and then when you go, just be in the mode?
Not particularly. I mean, if there are games that I know are going to be in the tournament, then I either want to try to learn the best strategies for those as they are set up in the tournament, or also just becoming familiar with the rules for the tournament. Sometimes that makes a difference. Each one is, back when I first started competing, I think there were maybe 4 tournaments in a year, and now it seems like there are, 40 in a month. There are just a lot of them around, so it's pretty easy to just sort of get going and start playing. But I don't know. Again, there's a lot of thought involved.
Okay. Do you remember the first pinball machine that you played? Do you remember what it was, or?
Yeah, pretty vividly. I didn't start playing pinball until I was in college, so it was around 1986. I played video games in high school, and it was like pinball it just never interested me. So it was High Speed was the first game I played, and it was really simple game, just very simple objective in the game, and just really a lot of fun to play. So that was a game that kind of hooked me.
Okay. Do you remember what was the first pinball machine that you bought?
Well, the first one I bought was Adam's Family in 1992. I was playing and trying to get back into playing because I hadn't played for a couple of years. And then one of the things I was noticing, I was trying to find places to play, and there were just not a lot of places where you could find games in good working condition. So, and I was wanting to play in tournaments and really just get into a kind of routine and practice and learn some new skills. And the thing that annoyed me a little bit was it was just really hard to find good working games out on location. So I bought Adam's Family, and after that I bought a Getaway, and it's been collecting pinballs pretty much since then.
Do you have quite a few right now still?
Yeah, a few. I don't know exactly, but it's somewhere between 30 and 40 at this point.
So do you have one of each of the ones you've worked on, or the ones you did?
Yeah, all of the games I worked on, because I'm a player, and when I worked on them, I'm always wanting to play them and try to improve them if I'm still able to with the software. And it's fun for most people. It becomes work for me, but it's a little both.
So how do you find? So you're working on the code for AC/DC still, and so in the past you find time to go back to previous games and update the code, or?
Yeah, the ones I can. I mean, obviously I can't go back and update the Williams stuff because Williams, I don't work for them anymore. But certainly Stern games, I always try and go back and you see a game and if you still feel like, well, maybe scores could be balanced a little bit better, or maybe there's some more, better light show you could do, or whatnot, maybe a little different change in the rules to make the game, again, either more balanced or more fun. Then always, software is never really kind of done. It's just always sort of keeps evolving.
That's a never-ending story because you could keep adding things.
Well, the things with games is that there's probably no perfect game, but they can always be improved. At some point, it's diminishing returns. At some point the game's good enough, and then, but I don't know. People mention bugs or whatever. I always say my name's on it, so I want to make sure it's as good as it can be.
Well, yeah, everybody has certain preferences. One game could be a masterpiece to someone, another,
Yeah, sure. As far as game design goes, there really probably is no absolute right or absolute wrong.
Right.
There is certainly trying to appeal to as many people as possible. If you do something in a game and 9 out of 10 people hate it, then you're probably wrong, and you have to be willing to not be stubborn and change your mind and say, hey, even though I didn't invent it this way, or I don't believe it in this way, I'm wrong and I need to do something different. Whereas if you do something and 9 out of 10 people like it, then you're probably doing great.
Okay. When did your interest in designing games begin? When did you just have that fire, say, hey, I want to do this?
It was about the time when I started to travel around to compete in tournaments. I met a lot of the designers and programmers, and I realized that I had an interest in pinball. That was like kind of my hobby. But then I have a degree in computer science, so yeah, sure, people program pinball machines for a living, so it seemed like kind of a good fit. So, but the one thing, again, you lose your hobby. You sort of either find a new hobby, or you end up being obsessive about what you do for a living.
So which happened?
Probably being obsessive about what I do for a living.
Well, when obsessive, passionate, like
all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It comes, and if you're paid to do what you enjoy doing,
Then
that's a
you're one of
win-win
the-
situation, right?
You're one of the luckiest people in the world.
So you are.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Are there any games that you'd like to go back and update the code that you worked on? Like I guess Stearns and.
Probably all of them if I could. Again, there's still a handful of things it's hard for me. I can still enjoy playing my own games, but it's also difficult because I'm always playing them with that eye towards how can I make this better. So, I still think every game can be improved. There's always something. It's never perfect.
There's always it's always a good cake, but you could always put a little more icing or toppings and oh yeah. How interested are you in being a team lead of designing a future game like you did Tommy, but your own game, you lead the team?
There are a couple ideas I've been kicking around for a number of years. Leading a team, we all the core team is probably the designer and the programmer, as far as what the content of the game is and how everything evolves, as far as design. So, I'm pretty interested, but also understand that unless somebody says, hey, this is what you're doing, then it's just really hard with all the workload that I have to try and take that on.
Okay.
But
What do you attribute most of the recent growth of pinball to? Mostly in the past few years, I'd say past 5 years. That's my point of reference. Last 5 years, I've pretty much watched it been growing. What is it coming from? What do you experience it come from? Like, where are all these people coming from? Like,
that's a really, really good question. I don't know. I mean, I haven't ever really met a person who doesn't like pinball. I mean, whenever I've had people over to the house or bring them to a show like this or whatever, it's not like they walk away and they say, wow, that just really wasn't any fun at all. They always seem to just, be kind of blown away by it. So I think I think people are being more exposed to what pinball is. I mean, I think, certainly handheld devices have something to do with that. A lot of people are exposed to it. A couple of, some apps, like on iPhone and some computer games are pinball games.
Right.
And then people just with information being, I suppose, more readily available. Even though you don't really see the games out in the world, let's see, maybe go into a bar or bowling alley or whatever. It's kind of out of the spotlight at this point, but right. People do manage to find it in other ways, and usually once they find it, they usually like it.
Right, because my reintroduction to pinball was when I moved to Seattle in 2007, and end of November, I found Spider-Man, a game you worked on in Shorty's. It's a Coney Island themed bar pinball arcade, and it had Medieval Madness, Monster Bash, Spider-Man, and classics like Centaur, and it blew me away. And this communities really exist in Seattle and in Portland and San Francisco and Chicago, all these places. And then ever since then, I've noticed new places popping up, like Pinball Hall of Fame and Flippers in Grandy, North Carolina. Unbelievable. It's a convenience store / pinball arcade / billiard hall that has like at least half of the games you worked on, and it's almost 100 games. And this popped up 9 months ago. Mm-hmm. And so these didn't exist 5 years ago. And he's an operator, and he said, well, I'm not going to just rent property near the beach. I'm going to start this arcade, and it's a reason to buy more pinball machines.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of us that have machines, we find reasons to have more machines and share our experience with other people, and it all compounds. To me, it all compounds that if I'm into it, I'll do what I can to get other people into it. It's just we affect the people that are around us, and we invite them. And usually, like you said, people come along for the ride and they don't complain about playing pinball with us.
Yeah, it's fun for most people. Also, I think, it's kind of changed over the years. I mean, again, like 20 years ago when I was first competing, there was a big operator base because people were making money with pinball, out on location, and now it's kind of more like being held together by the collectors. I mean, a lot of people I know from 20 years ago who were players and they played in tournaments and whatever, they're operating games now.
Right.
So a lot of them, and some people operate games because they're just into it and they want to get the games out and get people exposed to them. Other people do it to like kind of fund their hobby.
Right.
They make a little bit of money at it. Other people just find it interesting, something to do. They don't really make a lot of money at it, but it's just something interesting for them to do. So
it just, for me, it seemed like a natural fit. I have 4 games in a record store in Atlantic Beach called Young, Loud, and Snotty. It's nostalgic records, nostalgic skateboarding, relatively nostalgic for people who used to skateboard. And then I put Batman Forever in there a year ago this month, and I had Sopranos in there, and now I have 4 games in there. And I see a father and a daughter, a father and a son playing games together.
Yeah.
I don't see it anywhere else. I mean, there's nowhere else in town that has 4 games in Jacksonville. And so I do a monthly tournament now, and people come out from miles around. I'm like, it's not just if you build it, they will come. If you promote it, they will come. And if your games work, they will come.
That's the biggest thing.
Yes. And even the local operators, like the biggest one, I noticed his games work better. The GI works. I mean, the light. Wow, the light works. Blowing my mind. I mean, and they're cleaner now. So the titles they had that they've had for years, they've been sitting on Attack from Mars, Atmosphere, that they were sitting on. They're like, well, you're gonna promote my games for free? I'll put them out, and they know I'm promoting them, and I think that operators get it. Like, operators are understanding you have to have a working product, and then collectors already know that the product should work.
Yeah, and also players, I mean, like myself, because the first game I bought was because I couldn't find games that worked. But if there were games that worked, I'd go play them.
Same here. I hunted. I'm like, well, that's it. I have to start buying them, and that's the story I hear from, I think, everybody. Everybody, even in Seattle. Like, there's some nice collector operators, but again, it's like I don't want to go to a wino bar to play Medieval Madness or Monster Bash, and I had to. And drunks falling over me. No, I'll stick to shorties. What is your favorite part about being a Stern Pinball employee?
Mostly that I am able to have fun with my work. I think I'm just one of the lucky people in the world who gets to kind of do what they really enjoy doing.
And what is it like working with Steve Richie here? The first game you bought was one of his.
Yeah.
The first game you played, you really got you into pinball.
Yeah, the second game I bought was one of his, but I mostly gravitated towards. I didn't know who they were at the time, but I gravitated towards their games just because I thought they were, the most fun to play. Pat Lawler and Steve Richie, but Steve. Steve and I got off to kind of a bumpy start. On Spider-Man. We work pretty well together at this point. I mean, we know each other a lot better. Our working relationship works really well because we have kind of a mutual respect for each other, and we're both very temperamental and volatile to work with. And Steve probably more so than I am, but it's we have our good days and our bad days, but we're just trying to make something good.
So you have the same mission, you're on the same team.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's any means necessary, you'll get.
Yeah, we don't always agree on everything, and when we don't, I mean, sometimes we have words, but we always understand with each other. It's we're arguing about things because we're passionate about what we do, and it's what we believe. So.
How would you rate AC/DC as it stands today, like as a finished product software? From software point of view.
From software, as far as software is concerned, I'm pretty happy with the game and how it turned out. I mean, there's certainly more I'd like to do with it. It was kind of risky to sort of do what I did with it just because we work on really kind of compressed schedules at Stern, so when you try to do something that's different, we have so much experience that it's easy for us to sort of think about a rule idea and say, oh yeah, that would be pretty good, or no, I've seen that in 5 other games and I know that wouldn't be a good idea. And so for me, at the time we started AC/DC, I was getting, I guess it was just from playing games after a while, it sort of hit me that it was, I mean, you play in tournaments and you play so many games, and as far as points go, there really probably is only one, I don't want to say perfect way to play a game, but there probably is really only one optimal strategy, for any game. And some of the best games, some of the games that I consider the best as far as being a player, maybe have 2 or 3 different ways. Maybe one optimal strategy, but 2 or 3 other ways that are pretty close to it, where 2 or 3 different people could take different ways of approaching attacking a game and getting a decent score on it. So for AC/DC, I really wanted to try to come up with a different rule set that that would allow people to play the game differently. And the other thing that was a little annoying to me over the years was, sometimes there'd be something really valuable on a game. Like, I guess Twilight Zone is a great example. So many games are dependent on how they're set up. So, like, say on Twilight Zone or Whitewater, if the kick out isn't quite right, or it hits into a sling, or it goes down the middle, or whatever, then you end up avoiding certain areas of the game. So it also provided an opportunity for someone to say, all right, I'm not going to put the ball in the bumpers on this game because it hits off this rail and drains down the middle. So it gave me a chance to try something a little different. And it came about in kind of a weird way because I had worked on a couple of other music games before. I worked on Tommy and Guns N' Roses, and recently, I guess one of the more recent games that we had done was Rolling Stones. Excuse me. I wasn't at the company at the time, but there were a couple different approaches to doing a music game. Most people, when they hear the music, they want you hear a song. You're used to just hearing the whole song, but pinball is very dynamic.
Right.
So, and a lot of the enjoyment for me that comes out of the game is, I want to start something over here, and I want to start something else, and I just want to have, good scoring opportunities in the game. And so that doesn't lend itself to, if you have a music game and say, okay, I'm going to have this song associated with this rule on the game and this other one with this other rule and so on, and then you start three things all in a row, well, you may have want to hear this song that's associated with the second thing. So Steve designed the jukebox on the game, and so we had this idea of hey, off the heels of Rolling Stones, let's just try this thing where we just play the whole song until the person changes it. And so I thought about it for a minute, and I thought, wow, okay, so you're going to be able to get all these different things in the game, including multi-ball and whatever else is there, and the song is just going to keep playing. So at least in the way the rules were designed, songs kind of have a structure, and a lot of the AC/DC songs, they kind of built up to whether it was a guitar solo or different, pieces of the song, or maybe more exciting or whatever than others. But they always seem to occur maybe halfway through or three-quarters of the way through the song. So I had, just an idea where, and those songs are songs that just kind of, I don't know, get your adrenaline going. They're just really high energy songs. So the idea I had was to build a rule set around, instead of normally you design a 30-second mode, then I want to design something that might build up over 3 minutes or 4 minutes. And so that's sort of where the ideas for AC/DC came in.
And I really enjoy it. It's infectious. The game to me is infectious. I support a game on route, and it's been played at a place called Latitude 30 in Jacksonville, and it's done really well. And seen people's responses of all ages. I'll be there working on it, and someone will come in. I came in to watch this game. I came in to see this game. I'm like, okay, I've never been in a place, and someone came in just to see the game, and it's doing well. And I really enjoy it, the flow, the software, the choosing of songs. I can't believe that's something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah, I think it's been done, but in very different ways. I don't think, I suppose there are other games where maybe you could choose a mode or that you wanted to play. You build up to lighting it and then go, okay, I'm going to, whatever, I want to play this one, select it, whatever. But it hasn't necessarily been like the focus of the whole game. Again,
Right.
like pinball modes have usually been, okay, here's 30 seconds of fun that you get to have, and you're probably going to score like, I don't know, whatever, like on Lord of the Rings, you score 5 or 6 million points, and then your mode's over, and you're done, and it tells a little story, and the design of the songs on AC/DC, were more like, well, they're just gonna, here's this rule, and you build up, as the song plays, you're building up points, and as hopefully you get into, kind of more exciting part of the song, then you're hopefully going for, a decent, amount of points, in the game, and it's also a little different, I guess, in that regard, and there's no real storyline in the game. It's a music game, and it's more about scoring points than it is about, telling a story, which, I don't know, again, it just goes back to me not wanting to do, as a programmer and designer, I don't want every game to be the same. I mean, there is certainly a formula you can do so that, okay, this rule set is going to be fun, and I know because people have liked it in the past, but I don't know, because I collect games and play games, I don't want every game to be the same. I want some variety, I want something different, and if I have to work a little extra hard, to try something, and because it's a big risk, you might try something and it's like, oh, it's no fun, and you build a whole game around that, then, you're in big trouble, because they're going to come out with the game, and they're trusting you to make it fun for everybody.
And feedback is important from the customers, the people buying the games.
I think so, because again, I may think I have a great idea, okay, and I try it out on 10 people and 8 people don't like it. So I have to be humble enough to say that I'm wrong, okay, and listen to people and say, hey, you know what, I'm wrong on this one. I need to change it.
And that makes you a better designer, and
it's always a learning process. Always.
I'm impressed with your portfolio so far. I look forward to seeing future games and playing them and owning a few of them. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much.
And finish out good in the tournament.
Thanks.